And we are back. Welcome into the second episode of Kellen on the Mic, the only college basketball podcast that will write you a sick note for the first 2 days of the NCAA tournament. I apologize for missing last week. I had some sickness, as I'm sure a lot of people in my case have. Thought it was maybe COVID. Turns out it was just the flu. Lost about 10 pounds in sweat, but we're back and we're recovered. And we've got 2 weeks of college basketball to catch up on. So why don't we get right into it?
Run, Forrest, run! Run, Forrest!
And I want to start with a story that happened on January 10th. So last Saturday, not this Saturday, the previous Saturday. And that happened in the Texas-West Virginia game, where you had Andrew Jones from Texas 3 years to the day of announcing his battle with lymphoblastic leukemia. So he announced that battle. He announced he was positive or had leukemia to the team on January 10th, 2018. Fast forward almost exactly 3 years to the day, January 9th, 2021. Andrew Jones hits the game-winning buzzer beater against West Virginia to give the Longhorns a 10-1 record, keep Shaka Smart's redemption season alive. It's just an incredible story that it happens almost exactly 3 years to when he announced he had leukemia. Andrew Jones is leading this Texas team with 14.4 points per game. And this Texas team is just a great story. What makes them so dangerous is their balance. They have four starters, including Jones, who are averaging between 11 and 14 points per game. So any one of those guys can have the big day. They can have the big night and lead them to a win. Then you add Kai Jones, who is a 6'11 forward, who honestly might be the best NBA prospect on this team. He's coming off the bench, averaging about 8 points per game. So that makes me to right off the bat, I'm coming off hot. I'm staking my claim in Texas right now. Everybody and their grandma will be betting on Baylor Gonzaga. It's the smart bet. But if you want to get a little risky, you want to go against the grain in your bracket, join me on the Texas bandwagon. Texas is back. We're all aboard the Shaka Smart train, and I think they can give Baylor a run for that Big 12 title in the regular season here. They play down the road here, so I'm excited for that matchup. But yeah, watch out for Texas this year. Now, moving on to the NCAA tournament update. We got good news. We still got a tournament. So you can still look forward to taking a few days off work or whatever you're doing, school, to watch some NCAA tournament. But you might need to adjust your dates a little bit, because we got the first official dates for March Madness, and two major takeaways for me. One, the first round this year is going to take place on a Friday to a Monday. A lot of reasons why that's taking place. Obviously, give teams to more time to travel to their closed environments where they're going to take place, where the tournament's going to take place this year in Indiana, as I mentioned the previous show. But yeah, we're going to get a Friday to Monday. So obviously the first round games are going to take place Friday, Saturday. Then we're going to go Sunday, Monday. So those of you that usually take the Thursday, Friday off whatever you're doing to watch the tournament, now you're going to have to take the Friday, Monday. Just take an extended weekend. Again, I'll write you that sick note if you need it. Moving on to the third point of the Forest Five, we got the team of the week, and this week it's the Baylor Bears. Now, I talked at length about them last episode, where it's 1-2. It's 1A, 1B. Obviously, Gonzaga is probably the talk of the country right now as the best team, might go undefeated. But the Baylor Bears are right there with them, and they had two impressive wins this week. They beat Texas Tech by 8, and then they had a dominating performance against Kansas. It ended up an 8-point game. This was just this Monday night. It ended up an 8-point game, but it was the biggest 8-point blowout I think I've ever seen. Baylor was in complete control that whole game, thanks in large part to preseason All-American Jared Butler, who had 30 points, 8 assists, and was 7 of 9 shooting from outside the arc. Now, if this guy can score like that, they might be my favorite over Gonzaga. He's been up and down in terms of his scoring, but he proves it on the biggest stage that he can play with the best of them, and he's a junior guard, so he's got that experience. So look out for this Scott Drew and the Baylor Bears team going forward. They're my team of the week. Jared Butler would be on my All-American team right now, along with probably Luka Garza and maybe 3 Gonzaga Bulldogs. Have we ever had 3 first team All-Americans from one team? Because that could very well happen this year. Then moving on to the dud of the week. And this is a bit of a personal one for me. It's the Kentucky Wildcats. And I'll admit to all of you, I was back on board last week, 2 weeks ago. They had 3 straight wins. They had a dominant win, an 18-point win on the road against a solid Florida team. Keon Brooks, the only returning player that played any minutes from last year's team, was back. He looked great. He was a plus 23 in 24 minutes for them. I thought, hey, I'm buying back in. I'm getting my hose back on. Let's go. Kentucky's going to make the tournament. And how I should have known. I should have trusted my eyes because I've watched this almost every game. They don't have the guy that can just get you buckets when you need it. They don't have that guy this year. And it was supposed to be Brandon Boston. He was supposed to be that guy. He was supposed to be a top 10 lottery pick coming into the year if you read anybody's scouting reports. But he just hasn't been that guy. He currently has the highest usage rate on the team combined with the lowest field goal percentage. He's shooting 37.9% from the floor, as well as around 17% from 3. And when you have that, combine that with the highest usage rate on the team, that's not ideal. Kentucky, after their three-game win streak, they had back-to-back losses against a good Alabama team, which could honestly be the best SEC team in the country, and an Auburn team that's middling. So they had back-to-back losses. They fall to 4-8, and at this point, it's basically SEC tournament championship or bust, and the Kentucky Wildcats will not be in the NCAA tournament. And just a little side point for everybody, AP poll came out this week. First time since 1961, no Kentucky, no North Carolina, no Duke. So again, we touched on this the first episode, but not a year for the traditional Blue Beds. Finally, undefeated check-in. It's been 2 weeks since our last episode. We got to check on who's still undefeated. Obviously, we had the Gonzaga Baylor. We talked about them enough. I'm not going to go back there. But we had another one of the big schools fall out of the undefeated rankings, and that was the Michigan Wolverines, who lost to the Minnesota Golden Gophers by 18 on Saturday. That loss came a week and a half after the Wolverines smashed the Golden Gophers by 25 in Ann Arbor. But this just goes to show home court is still a thing. This is on me. I think I had the Golden Gophers to cover on my last episode on the picks. That was the only one I got wrong. We went 2 for 1, but we'll get to that later. But the Golden Gophers, they are perfect 11-0 at home in the barn. That's what the nickname for Minnesota's home arena is. They're perfect 11-0 at home, while they are 0-4 on the road. So not big crowds this year, but basketball is different. The sightlines, players get used to the sightlines. They get used to practicing at home. So home court, still a thing. If the whole tournament was being played in the barn in Minnesota, I would like the Minnesota Golden Gophers to win the whole NCAA tournament. But because it's not, I don't like Minnesota's up and down. But when they're playing at home, we're going to bet them from now on. That's on me. But yes, Michigan, still a top 8 team for me. Should be on the 1 or 2 seed line, but gets knocked off to the undefeated. Gets knocked off the undefeated. So that leaves us with now there's a total of 6 undefeated teams left. The 2 other ones we got to give a shout out are Drake and Winthrop, who are both undefeated. The Drake Bulldogs, they're a perfect 13-0, including a 3-0 start in the Missouri Valley Conference. They are an elite three-point shooting team, shooting 42.2% from beyond the arc. Then you got to look at the Winthrop Eagles, and boy, do they like to play fast. They're out of the Big South, and they currently have the fastest offensive tempo in the country, and they average just 13.6 seconds per possession. Now remember, college basketball, that is incredibly fast because you have a 30-second shot clock. So put a little note in the back of your brain, come tourney time, especially if these teams end up in the double-digit C's, the 12, 13s. I might like them for a first-round upset because they know how to win. Other two teams undefeated, Siena and Alabama A&M. They're both technically undefeated, but they've each played only 6 and 3 games respectively. So if they start getting a few more wins, get into the double-digit wins, we'll put some more respect on them. But right now, they're just too early in their season. So there's the Forest 5 for you. I hope you enjoyed that. We'll move into some picks. I know it was so long ago. I hope some of you followed me on my last picks because I was 2-1. I had 4 overall picks. 1 game got postponed. So 2-1 overall in the season. And I have 4 more for you this week. We're going to start with a Wednesday night game. This pod should be out Wednesday morning. So make sure you listen to it. Get this pick in. I like Clemson +1 at Georgia Tech. Now, Clemson, I know if some of you have been following, they just got smashed by Virginia by 35. But Virginia's turning the corner, and I think I like Clemson to have a bounce-back game. They got embarrassed, and they're going to a Georgia Tech team who is 6 and 3. They haven't played since January 3rd. Should be a little rusty. Clemson needs a redemption game. Clemson's still an 8 and 2 team, and some people were saying they were the best team in the ACC before this Virginia smashing. So I still think Clemson, the talent's there. And then if we're getting points against a Georgia Tech team, give me Clemson all day. Now, Baylor at Oklahoma State. I know I've talked about Baylor a bunch on this show, but I like Oklahoma State +8 points. Now, again, these are the initial lines I'm taking from Ken Palm. They might change a little bit, but again, this is just what I had to work on because the lines don't usually come out until the morning of the night before. So for these next 3 games are all on Saturday. So Baylor at Oklahoma State. I like Oklahoma State +8. Give me Cade Cunningham. Arguably might be the top pick in the NBA come NBA draft season. I like him in a prove-it matchup against the top 2 team in the country. Oklahoma State, they've lost 3 games this season, and those losses have been by 3, and by 1. So when they lose to good teams in the Big 12, and they lose tight games. Baylor coming off two emotional big games against Texas Tech and Kansas, as I mentioned earlier. Might have a little bit of a down game. Jared Butler just had his best game of the season. Probably won't have those same shooting numbers. I like Baylor to win the game, but I like Oklahoma State to keep it close, cover that +8. Now, Wisconsin and Ohio State on Saturday, big Big Ten matchup, and I like Wisconsin this week -4. Ohio State is coming off a heartbreaking loss, buzzer beater loss to Purdue on Tuesday night. Then they have to go to play the number 5 ranked defensive team in the country in Wisconsin. Give me the Badgers to cover. They play great defense. Ohio State's going to be exhausted after a big emotional loss to Purdue. Give me Wisconsin to cover. And then I promise you, Minnesota to cover -6 against Maryland in the barn. I'll take it on myself. I steered you wrong last show, but that's on me. I've atoned for my mistakes. The Golden Gophers do not lose in the barn. Michigan beat Maryland. Michigan beat Maryland by 24 on Tuesday night. This same team, the Michigan team I mentioned earlier, Minnesota just beat by 18 this weekend at home. So if you're telling me Maryland, who just lost by over 20 to Michigan, has to go into the barn to play Minnesota, and Minnesota only has to cover 6 points, I love that all day. That's my lock of the week. Take Minnesota to cover -6, and you're laughing. Hope everyone enjoyed this episode of On the Mic. Excited to get back to regular weekly posts. And as always, I will talk to you all next week. And until then, survive and advance.